Welcome to a Better Divorce podcast, where we have conversations about the emotional, financial, and legal issues that are on your mind or should be on your radar if your goal is to keep your divorce out of court. I'm collaborative divorce attorney and mediator Andrea Vacca, and I know that how you divorce matters to your long-term well-being. That's why it's my mission to help you have a better divorce with as little acrimony as possible, so that you can create the best life possible on the other side of your marriage. Hello, everyone. I am excited to welcome Lora Cheadle to the podcast today. Lora is a former attorney, a betrayal recovery coach, and the author of the book FLAUNT and the upcoming book, It's Not Burnout, It's Betrayal. So, Lora, welcome to a Better Divorce podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
I am too. We're going to be talking about betrayal today. And I know you left your legal career behind. You're a lawyer. You left your legal career behind and shifted to becoming a betrayal recovery coach. So can you just tell us a little bit about what led to that shift?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a shift that I never saw coming. And it was born from my own experience going through infidelity. After 23 years of what I really thought was a great connected, committed relationship, I was blindsided to learn that my husband had been cheating on me for 15 years with multiple women. And yes, I reached out for help. There's some great help out there, and there's also some not so great help out there. So the reason I shifted was I started doing what I wished I could have found when I was going through my own journey.
What was that you didn't find that you wish you had found?
A couple of different things. First of all, there are a lot of people out there who are experts, and I'm putting that in air quotes, but they've never experienced it. So the help they're giving you is just from this cognitive level of you, well, yes, I studied this, but there's kind of a disconnect. You don't know what it feels like until
Mhm.
you there. We all think we know what it's gonna be like, as with so many things. We think we know, and then we get there, and it is nothing like what we experienced. And the second thing I found was there's a lot of people out there that have an agenda. I want you to forgive your husband and stay, divorce your husband and take him for everything that he's worth, or that there was always this external agenda. And it was like, I don't want your agenda. This is hard enough for me. I need to figure this out for myself.
Got it. Okay. So let's define betrayal. How do you define it?
Absolutely. Betrayal is defined as the breaking of an expectation that ruptures your view of yourself or the world or your marriage. And what's so important to note about that definition is when we expect something, when we think we can materially rely on something, when it's broken, it devastates us. And it's not something we just get over because we have to rebuild our identity, our worldview, our belief in what marriage means. We have to rebuild because everything we thought that was true, we find out isn't true.
I am right. I mean, if you think you have, in your example, a healthy, thriving marriage, and then to find out it's not, like you must question every other thing that you thought was true.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely. Because this is
nothing
the
feels safe.
foundation. Yeah. Yeah, you don't feel safe, you don't trust other people, but worse, you don't trust yourself because then you start second guessing. If I could be fooled, I thought I was smart, I thought I was intuitive, I thought I was capable. Whoa, what else must be wrong?
Right. So betrayal can come in so many forms. You experience physical betrayal. There's emotional betrayal. Financial betrayal is a huge issue in divorce that we see. So, what's the first thing that you recommend somebody do or not do when they find out that they when they finally realize or accept that they've been betrayed?
Yeah,
Any first, yeah,
yeah, I've got something to do and to not do.
good.
First, do allow yourself to grieve. This is a shock. If you think about the physical body going into shock, you need to manage that shock first and foremost. We don't set the broken bone, you manage the shock first. Same with financial betrayal, relationship betrayal, emotional betrayal, just the feelings of betrayal that you get when you're going through a divorce and the marriage you thought you would have forever has ended. Manage that shock, manage the grief, cry, rage, grieve, mourn, do what you need to do. So that is the what to do. What not to do is leap into action because you're in a state of shock. You're in fight, flight, or freeze. You have just moved from the prefrontal cortex to the survival portion of your mind that says, do something now, fight, flight, run away, or freeze. So take some time, not too much time, but take some time and consciously choose your next steps.
Right. So many you can just see all those examples of fight, fi fight,
Flight or freeze.
flight, fight, flight, or freeze. People wanna flee. They'll just not deal with that's, freezing, probably not dealing with anything, fighting, trying to get back at someone, being in detective mode, trying to figure out everything, but you're not gonna make smart decisions right now. Take a breath, get some help. Like you said, the rage rooms, whatever it is, like, feel the emotions and let them settle, and then you can take action and decide what to do.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Take that break, reclaim your brain, then move forward.
So I want to talk about what happens if you don't do the things you're suggesting or do something, like what happens if you don't properly deal with betrayal, and then talk about how to properly deal with betrayal. So let's start with what happens if you don't properly deal with betrayal.
Ah,
Yeah,
yeah.
what's the long-term, short-term effect of that?
Mhm. We tend to go into a state of resentfulness, bitterness, and hypervigilance. I think we all know those people, and we avoid them, where they're like, "Let me tell you what my husband did to me in 1957," and you're like, "Oh my god, enough already."
Right.
But that's what we do. We tend to start perseverating and fixating on the wound, on what happened, and we become who we're not. We allow that traumatic incident to change us. So that's my question for everybody. Who were you before this happened? Were you kind? Were you loving? Were you full of joy? Were you nurturing? Think about all of those qualities about who you were. And maybe you have to go back to before the marriage. Who were you in college? Who were you? That is the core of who you were, and that is who you want to rise from the ashes.
Yeah.
You don't want to become somebody wounded, somebody broken, somebody miserable. And that will happen unless you deal with it.
Right. It'll fester, that resentment, the bitterness, and that feeling of being a victim, like you
Mhm.
just it becomes who you are and you'll never be happy. And I want to when I talk about emotional betrayal, it could also be just your spouse wanting to end the marriage. That could feel like a betrayal. Just no
Yeah.
longer want to be married to me. They didn't do anything. They just don't want to be married anymore. Like people don't get over that. Um,
Yes.
and, I've had clients where it's been a abusive marriage, like, it was not happy, but they're
Mhm.
still feel betrayed that the more abusive spouse wanted to end it. Like, it's
Yeah,
their lucky break, in my opinion. Sometimes I think it's "Wow, you're out. You got out." But they don't see it that way. So
yeah.
and okay, so you're the more bitter and resentful you are, the more you internalize, "I am betrayed. I was betrayed. I was wronged." It
Yes.
doesn't allow you to become the happy, full blown person that you once could have been or could be in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I like to say that when you've been betrayed, you have been victimized. I mean, even like you said, even if it's just somebody saying, "I don't wanna leave the marriage," you have been victimized. And sadly, in life, we are all victimized, and we will be victimized again. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's true.
Yeah.
But you do not have to be a victim.
Big
Being a
difference.
victim is an identity. What
Yeah.
is the identity you want? Are you a survivor? Are you a thriver? Are you a victim? You get to choose your identity. So choose it wisely. And you know what? If you want to choose the identity of a victim and spend the next 40 years living that out, that is your choice, but be aware of it. And I don't choose that. And I don't think a lot of people really want that either.
I don't either. But some people, they if you want to, but know that that's what you're choosing. Be conscious of that, right?
Yes.
That might not be what we would choose, but somebody might want to. It feels safer in some way. But
Mhm.
be careful because if you don't consciously think about what you're doing, you're saying that's where you could end up.
Yeah, you just become based on circumstance. And it's about being the conscious co-creator of the next chapter of your life.
And you say co-creator. Why not just creator? The conscious creator of your next chapter. Tell me more
Because
about that.
yeah, I'm glad that you asked about that. We have other relationships. We might have kids. We have maybe aging parents. We might want to enter into a different relationship. We've got friends. We're not living in a silo. And it's how we deal with all of those things around us because people will disappoint us, people will betray us, jobs will be lost. All these things will happen, and it's how you roll with it along the way and what you choose to do with what has happened to you because things will happen to you. They just will.
Right. Right. Okay. Thank you for explaining that. I couldn't agree more. So I know in your book Flaunt, it's an acronym for 5 actionable steps that you can take to address the feelings of betrayal.
Yeah.
So so we talked about, is there anything more to say about why it's important to address the feelings other than not to become identify as a victim? Is there anything else more to say before we talk about the steps?
Um,
Um,
I think what I wanna say, and this rolls nicely into the steps, is when you've been betrayed, when you've been disappointed, how do you feel? You wanna crumble in, you wanna wilt, you don't have a strong life force, you wanna drink wine and watch Netflix, you want to, crumple in on yourself, and the energy of the word flaunt is what I'm challenging people to lean into. How can you go back to joy, back to, "Hey, let's see what's possible for me." So, when you don't heal those feelings, first of all, you're gonna feel miserable. Second of all, it's your life. But third of all, you're gonna start bringing more in. If you're acting like a victim, other people will see that too. If you believe you're a victim, you will subconsciously seek out circumstances that repeat that pattern over and over and over, and nobody wants that.
yes, yeah. Okay. So yes, and the toxic people, the people who will betray you again, the people who never that you will not be happy having in your life, that's what you will attract because that's what almost you feel like you deserve because that's
Yes.
how you're living. Okay.
Yes,
We don't want
and
that.
no, and that's also how you start treating yourself. We betray ourselves every single time we seek to please somebody else at our own expense. Every time we seek to conform into somebody else's idea of who we should be, and every time we seek to perform instead of just show up as we are. So we'll also be self-betraying over and over, and then wondering, "Why is life not the way I thought it should be? Why am I not happy?"
Incredible. I love that. Okay. Good food for thought there. So we're going to get now into what these 5 steps are.
Hey listeners, it's Andrea Vacca here, your host of a Better Divorce podcast. If you're looking for ways to navigate your divorce with less conflict and more cooperation, my free ebook, Divorce Without Court, A More Peaceful Solution, can help you do just that. Divorce Without Court shows you how to reach an agreement without court involvement, from understanding mediation and collaborative divorce to learning how to keep your divorce under your control. This book covers it all. You'll even find practical checklists and first steps to help you move forward and guide you through the process. With over 3 decades of experience in family law, I've helped countless couples and families achieve peaceful solutions. Divorce Without Court puts that knowledge in your hands. Whether you're just starting to think about ending your marriage or if you're already in the process, this free ebook will help you have a better divorce. Why wait? Click the link in the episode description to download Divorce Without Court, a more peaceful solution. Take control of your future and move forward in your divorce with confidence and composure.
Okay, so let's talk about the 5 steps. What are they? What does FLAUNT stand for?
Absolutely. As you said earlier, it's an acronym. And the first step is for find your fetish.
Oh
And
boy.
and I use the word fetish intentionally because it's so much more powerful than follow your bliss or find your joy. It's like, whoa, my fetish. What is that? And it makes people smile and laugh. But your fetish is that thing that really lights you up. It's not like, yeah, I'm going to go work out because I should, and it's kind of fun once I get there. Or, yeah, I sure enjoy cooking. It's great. What is that thing that you're really looking forward to? And when was the last time you spent the morning being like, can't wait to get there? That's your fetish. And it's finding things in your life that bring you that level of joy and challenging yourself to say yes, to lean into them and to embracing them more.
What are some fetishes that your clients that you hear, spark that joy for people? Can you give us some examples?
Absolutely. I think one that is for me is a big one is dance. And movement, and
Mhm.
turning on a song and just busting out into some silly dance moves along the way, where I'm not thinking about impressing anybody. I'm not doing it because it's my cardio workout, but just being moved by music, allowing myself to turn on whether it's an old song or a new song, and just singing and dancing and shaking and just enjoying that experience. I
Okay.
know a lot of my clients also find really high levels of joy in nature, with animals. Some people love the creative process, whether it's building a business, whether it's creating art. Creativity sparks a lot of joy for people.
Yeah, and it also helps you focus. Like you have to be focused on what you're creating, and the world can drift away. All of these things that are giving you joy. You're just you're in it. You're in the moment, and that just I think helps so much. Like I personally, what brings me joy is skipping. I know it's weird, but I'll skip through Central Park like as part of my workout. But that's when I'm loving like skipping. People are looking at me like I'm crazy, but I don't care. I love that feeling of skipping.
Yes. No, I'm with you. It's freeing. It's fun. It's freeing. It opens your heart, your body. I love it.
Yeah, listening to music, yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, so that's number 1, find your fetish. What's 2?
Then yeah, the next step rolls nicely into that. The L stands for laugh out loud. And like you said, skipping might feel frivolous, laughing might feel frivolous, but it's not. Like skipping, it's not. According to the Mayo Clinic, laughter is actually the number one way to calm and re-regulate the nervous system, which brings you back into the prefrontal cortex, takes you out of survival mode, and helps you make good, conscious, thoughtful decisions. And
Okay.
it's fun. It relieves stress. It actually tones the abdominal muscles if you're laughing a lot.
Mhm.
It lightens the mood, both for you and for people around you. Whether it's following, like, somebody funny on Instagram, whether it's looking at, memes of babies and animals, it could even just be having a playlist of movies or music or classic TV series. Look through those lists. Remember that funny episode from I Love You, Lucy years ago, and you'll just smile, and it shifts the energy, and it allows you to reclaim your brain.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, find your fetish, laugh out loud.
Mhm.
Next is the A in flaunt.
Yes, and I pair the A and the U together because that's the atomic symbol for gold, and this is where the golden magic happens. AU stands for accept unconditionally. Whenever we are struggling, it's because we are not accepting unconditionally. It's because we're putting conditions on something. I wish this wouldn't have happened. If only he were different. If only I had this much money. If only I had lost this much pounds. If only I would have said no. If only he would start therapy. If only, if only. When we accept unconditionally, we don't have to be happy about it. We're not giving somebody a free pass, but we're saying this is where I am now. My head is not buried in the sand. And from where I am now, what is my most logical next step?
This
And
has happened. This is where I am. What's next? I would think it could also apply to when we're shooting on ourselves, right? So
yes,
we're not unconditionally accepting what actions we took or did not take. I shouldn't have done this. I should have done more of that. I imagine that comes up a lot when you've been betrayed. You start judging yourself.
yes. Oh, absolutely. Self and others. And that's the whole thing. Where are you now? I liken it to like using a GPS. People always talk about the destination. You got to put in the destination. Yes, you do. But really, most importantly, you've got to put in the location. You're in New York. If you're trying to get to California, you need to put in New York. If you put in Colorado, where I'm at, the directions are meaningless and you're not going to get there because you can't figure out that first step, how to get from New York to Colorado. So accept unconditionally, figure out where you're at so you can get the correct directions.
Yeah. Um, that makes it, I really like that idea, that an example. Yeah. Where are you? Where are you starting from? Where are you now? Accept that where you are so you can move forward. When we were talking before the show, you had said that this step helps you to avoid, in your words, the crazy making.
Yes.
So what exactly, like, what if you don't do this? How are you making yourself crazy? Can you say more about that?
Oh, absolutely. So many different ways. Because think about how often we fall in love with like somebody's potential. Or what would change if this changed? Well, we might not have to get a divorce. If my husband just starts therapy and if I finally lose this 50 pounds and he does that, everything is going to change. And then you go off on this whole tangent of how your marriage is going to end up being this different story. But it's not. If you start thinking about what I coulda, woulda, shoulda done, I should have stayed with that one job. I should have gone back to school. This is a lot of effort you're putting into something that is over.
Understood.
Yeah.
That really makes a lot of sense. Okay, let's talk about N. What does
Yes.
the N stand for?
N stands for navigate the negative. We all believe, I believe it too, we all fall into it, life should be linear. I go from A to B to C to D. I graduate, I get a job, I get married, I get a dog, I get like we all have these scripts in our head about how things should work. And we have those scripts in our head about divorce too. Like once we come to terms with it, oh, this is going to happen and then I'm going to get this and then he's going to get that. It doesn't work that way. Like it never works that way. And again, this goes to that acceptance and that crazy making. When we start feeling like things are wrong, this didn't happen, so it's wrong. I'm wrong. My lawyer's wrong. My financial planner's wrong. My spouse is wrong. No, stay present in the moment with what is and start navigating because navigating can actually be joyful. Think about being an ocean liner in the middle of the ocean and there's no land in sight and storms are coming in. Do you drop anchor and wait it out? Do you plow ahead and move through the storm? Do you backtrack and then drop anchor, 15 miles back? Do you circumnavigate the storm? Like you get to figure that out in the moment. You get to judge, and that's actually fun. It's not right, wrong. It's staying present and navigating, looking at what's around you.
Yeah, that the challenges can have an opportunity on the other side.
Yeah.
I think it's important to remember that. So you're going to navigate around it, and what's around that corner could be better than if it had gone linear. Life happens in a divorce. You're getting divorced, but life is happening still. You still have a job. Your kids are growing. Once someone can get sick, you're someone in your family. I mean, there's so many things that can happen, and you have to adjust. And like when you think about a plane, right? It never goes from one direction to the other. It's constantly re-navigating and moving, and that's how we have to move with our with our lives is just one part of your life that you're dealing with. So I like
Yeah.
that. Navigate the negative.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned that about life because holidays will happen, birthdays will happen, events will happen. No, I'm not saying that this year's birthday with your kids is gonna be the best one ever, but it also doesn't have to be the worst one ever. What can you do to allow yourself to enjoy? Because allowing yourself to enjoy is key. You don't have to be miserable through the process.
Exactly. It is what it is right now. How can
Mhm,
you make the best of it now? Yeah.
mhm. Yeah. And then the last step is T for trust in your truth. And that's one of my favorite steps because so many of us have this belief that somebody else knows better. And yes, hire your experts, get an attorney, get a coach, get a financial planner. If you want to explore your past, get a therapist, get help, but run all the information through the wisdom of who you are. How does this apply to me? Does this apply to me? How does this feel in my gut, in my heart, and in my head? I always tell people to check those 3 spots. Your intellect might say one thing, your heart might say something else, and your gut might say a third thing. It's trusting your truth, and in order to trust your truth, you need to own your truth and know your truth. And in order to know your truth, you need to be present and aware and focused on how do I feel?
So giving yourself space and time to allow yourself to feel
Mm,
and listen to yourself. Like, how do you do that? You're in the middle of a divorce. It's hard. Any
yeah,
tips for that? I mean, do you have to go away to
yes,
a retreat center or you
no.
what do you do?
One of my favorite techniques is a grounding and centering technique, and I do this multiple times a day. The first is feel your feet on the ground, rub them back and forth, push down, activate your muscles in your legs and push down. If you're standing, stomp, jump. This is where I am now. And you can repeat, I am where my feet are. I am in Central Park. I am in my office. I am in the car outside the courtroom getting ready to go in. Remind yourself where you are now. That's grounding. That grounds you into the moment. The second thing is centering, centering yourself into your body. Right now, you don't have to close your eyes. You don't have to do any of that. Feel the inside of your spine, the side of the spine that runs up the inside of your body. Move your awareness in there from the back of the head all the way to the tailbone and pull your energy in to that pillar. The inside of the spine, that is centering. That is you. You are the eye of the storm. Things can happen around you, but I am grounded and I am centered in me in this location right now. And that helps create joy. That allows you to experience joy. And that also brings calmness in the chaos when people are being completely unreasonable and they're trying to get you knocked off center and they're trying to get you mad.
I love that centering part. I've heard about grounding yourself, but never really thinking about your spine like that and centering yourself internally. I
Mhm.
love that. Thank you. I learned something a lot right now.
Good,
So,
you're welcome. It works, it
yeah,
really
I
works.
I
Yeah.
will use that and encourage others to. Okay,
Thank you.
so, trust in your truth. Okay, we have flaunt.
Yes.
So, as we bring this episode to a close, is there anything else to share about that we haven't talked about yet, that about betrayal and recovering from it, dealing with it, moving forward in spite of it?
Yeah, I'm gonna personalize this a little bit because this is something that, didn't come up. After my husband's infidelity, 15 years, multiple women, after we separated, we ended up coming back together and rebuilding our marriage. And why I think that's important, how that ties into flaunt is the outcome is not necessarily what other people tell you the outcome will be. And I don't want to falsely say it can all be this fairy tale because it can't. And that's not what this is. And even though we're together and it's successful, it was really hard work. But why I say that is in service of understanding your outcome can look any number of different ways. You get to create it, your partner gets to create it. You have choices. And coming back together was a complete shock to me. So stay present, stay open, trust yourself, and just be open that whatever you hear, that's somebody else's narrative. It's not your own. You get to define yourself your way.
Okay. I'm sure you had people telling you shouldn't do that after what he did to you. It was probably really had to say, what do I need? Listen to your heart, your gut, your head.
Yes.
I can see how you jump through all of those hoops at one point to try to get to where you are. Thank you
Yes.
for sharing that.
You're
Yep.
welcome.
Okay, well, I end every episode by asking my guests for their better divorce tip. So, Laura, what is your tip?
My better divorce tip is we covered it a little bit. Stay present and stay curious. If your partner is proposing something crazy, don't immediately fight it. If you're in a contentious spot, you don't have to immediately fight it. Stay curious. What
Okay.
else is possible? Because the answer is never A or B. It's always somewhere in between A and B. And you'll say, I didn't know there were letters in between A and B. Who knew there was like A and a half, A and 3/4, B minus 1/4? It's always something that you didn't think. So just stay curious.
Okay. And open.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, thank you. So, how do people find you and your books?
absolutely. They can find my book anywhere books are sold, Amazon, Barnes& and Noble, even Walmart. You can also come to my website, loracheadle.com, and Lora is spelled Lora. So LoraCheadle.com. And if you'd like, you can also download my free Betrayal Recovery Toolkit that is phenomenal, and that includes a free chapter of FLAUNT. And you get that by going to betrayalrecoveryguide.com.
All right. So they can get that through the website or through Betrayal Recovery
Yes, betrayalrecoveryguide.com. Either
Guide.com.
way.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Laura. I've really enjoyed our conversation. It was so helpful. I found it helpful. I'm sure others have too, and I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
So if you enjoyed today's episode, please like and subscribe. This will help others find us and if they're seeking a better divorce. So this has been another episode of A Better Divorce Podcast, and we'll see you on the next episode.
You've been tuning in to another episode of A Better Divorce Podcast with Andrea Vacca. Thank you for subscribing, leaving your positive comments and reviews, and sharing the show with others. You can watch episodes at vaccalaw.com, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. And you can listen through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. Bye for now, and remember, you can have a better divorce.